الخامسة حلول التنقل الميسور والتنقل السهل الوصول الشامل من خلال إفريقيا. Solution de mobilité abordable et micro-mobilité, favoriser l'accès inclusif à travers l'Afrique. So I give the floor to the moderator, Victoria Bacos-Jourling, AAMC. The floor is yours.
Good morning. I see more energy in this room this morning. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call my fellow participants and speakers to the panel. If I can ask Kassem Odermatt to come on the panel. He is the COO of the OG Group. We did have a very long evening at the ministerial round table, so I hope that he's actually here. But we can also just move on. If I can ask Sharon Nishi, the chairperson and managing director of General Motors Egypt and Africa, to the stage. Let's give her a warm applause, please. And then if I can please ask Mike Whitfield, the Managing Director of Stellantis, South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, onto the stage. He did not have any rest now after the first panel. Give him a warm applause, please. And then I would also like to ask Ahmed Shafeddine, the President and CEO of the PSC Group and the Vice President of the Tunisian Auto Association, to the stage. Please give him a warm applause. Thank you. So yesterday we spoke a lot about affordable mobility and why it is crucial in order to grow the demand in Africa. So we also speak about micro-mobility because it will shape the future of transport across the whole continent as Africa's urban and peri-urban populations grow. So there is really an urgent need for practical, low-cost mobility solutions that are accessible, sustainable, and also scalable. So we'll talk with one of the leading experts in Africa, which innovative vehicle concepts are already there, which innovative vehicle concepts and also financing models do we need in order to grow the demand in Africa and grow the new vehicle sales. So we'll talk about different affordable mobility solutions. So if I can just open with you, Sharon, and I know we talked a lot about US tariffs yesterday, and now the US ambassadors, you will not touch on that. So affordable mobility is often described as really the heartbeat of an inclusive growth in Africa. And General Motors has a very, very strong history of vehicle innovation. So how are you also adopting your product portfolio to actually address the specific needs of affordable in Africa? Because it is quite different from other markets such as the US.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. First of all, before I start, I want to do a personal welcome to Ambassador Elizabeth Moore-Albin from the U.S. Embassy here. Thank you so much for attending and supporting. I mentioned this last night at the round table. It is really key to have a strong collaboration between public and private sector working together hand in hand to drive the auto industry. So having the ambassador here to support us is just terrific. To answer the question on affordable mobility and what we do from a General Motors perspective, GM is a very global company. We're pretty much operating in all the continents around the world, and the value that we have that we could bring to markets such as Africa is being able to take a look at our product portfolio across the globe and be able to pick and choose the ones that work best for the markets here. We've been in Egypt for over 40 years is a very good example of where we've deeply localized into the market. We've led the market for pretty much 40 years, especially in the commercial vehicle sector. And the commercial vehicle sector is a key one because it enables jobs. and it enables small and medium-sized enterprises to operate their business, thrive, and be successful in any economy. And in the case of Egypt and our pickup truck, it comes in at a very affordable, accessible price point. Importantly, it has the capability to handle the roads and demands of what Africa throws at a driver. Infrastructure often is still in the developmental stages, and to be able to have vehicles that can handle that, as well as handle the loads and requirements of the consumer, is really important. And we'll take a truck and we'll make sure that we adapt to the environment of the local market. And to be able to do that, localization is key, because as you localize components, you have the flexibility to design in the requirements for Africa. So that's one of the key sort of benefits of being able to push for, you know, what we were saying yesterday night is that higher level of delocalization of the continent. The other thing that you know, General Motors really believes in is to be able to offer vehicles at every price point to fit the wallets and the purses of every consumer in our markets. And we tend to come in, especially with the Chevrolet brand, at a very mainstream, mass market, value-oriented, but with good quality, value, safety for consumers. And that positioning for the brand is ideal for markets like Africa and the diversity that it has. So that in a nutshell is how we go to market. And obviously the vision in the future is, as we unlock sustainable mobility and be able to get into alternative propulsion systems, EVs, and new energy vehicles, that does offer another amazing opportunity that we're all working towards, which is to offer a mainstream electric vehicle for mainstream consumers in the market. So that's in a nutshell where we're at.
Thanks, Sharon. And if I can just touch on it, because you also mentioned now sustainability, and a lot of African governments are pushing to transition towards alternative drivetrains. We also have the ambassador of Ethiopia to Algeria here, and I know Ethiopia also has quite a focus on transitioning. But the question is really, how do we balance affordability with the push for new energy vehicles such as electrification, considering also the infrastructure realities we have also in Egypt?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a consistent issue in that this is where that public and private sector part comes in, because it's a bit of a chicken and egg challenge. And if you don't have the infrastructure, you can't create the demand for customers to want to drive an electric vehicle. And while chemistry development's happening and range will extend, but today we would need significant support from governments that are committed to a more sustainable future to weigh in and provide support for the infrastructure and create demand in the markets for EVs. And we've seen time and time again, whether it's China or Europe, where governments have stepped in the short term to accelerate EV adoption through incentives and policies. Those are the markets that have had high EV adoption. And as customers start getting used to an EV and appreciating the benefits of the EV, then the demand will naturally come. But in the early days, we really do need government support to get things kicked off.
Public-private partnerships, yeah. So, Mike, coming to you, I know you didn't have any rest from the first panel to this one, but I know you're sharp. So, Stellantis has recently also announced a new model for Africa and Middle East, so electric three-wheeler. So that's a concrete example actually of micromobility in Africa. So how do you really see this with a model like yours evolve in Africa's transport ecosystem?
Thank you. And I think first of all, let's just try and put it in context. We look at a continent where urbanization is expected in Africa is going to double by 2050. 2/3 of Africans living in cities, which really is driving an urgent need and demand for compact, affordable particularly low emission mobility. Transport, rising challenge, emissions from transport already reaching record levels globally, and oil still remains the top energy related emitter in Africa, which again supports the issue for efficient, low energy urban movement. Africa is positioned for micromobility, no doubt about it, with short trip distance, youthful demographics, growing demand for supportable transport makes our continent that we operate in the ideal place for micromobility adoption. User cases are clear, it's scalable, urban last mile patterns, delivery, logistics, campus travel. With micromobility, you can have speed, space, and efficiency, and we already see it. Market momentum is strong. Electric 2- and 3-wheelers are the fastest growing EV category in emerging markets, and really offsetting the demand of the rise in fuel costs. It's no longer, in our view, from a micromobility, is no longer a niche. It's a strategic solution. It's critical for the urban infrastructure to have sustainability, inclusivity, and accessibility. And by 2050, as we said, 2/3 of Africans will live in cities. From a Stellantis point of view, we have a very clear vision and objective to be a leader in sustainable, safe, and inclusive micromobility. It's part of our 2030 strategic plan and our roadmap very much for Africa, where we're wanting to build solutions that fit all needs. We're not only talking about the future, but it's about delivering concrete solutions that we already have. Try and put in perspective, we already have moved into that area of democratizing electric micromobility, where we have things called the Citroen Ami, the Opel Rock, the Fiat Topolino, which are already compact EVs designed for urban use. We just increased our production capacity from 20 to 70,000 as of January 2025. And to further support, we just announced a product called the Fiat Tris, so all our micromobility products will move under Fiat. And this is very much part of our new milestone in our micromobility strategy, where the Tris is targeted for the professional use in both urban and semi-urban areas. So very much part of our plan, very core to our future strategy in Africa, and certainly a journey that we believe is critical for all to take as we move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And you touched a lot about urban micromobility, and we know this is where we see the faster growth in East Africa, but also in South Africa. I think when I moved to Sub-Saharan Africa 5 years ago, you hardly saw any 2-wheelers on the roads. Now that has changed a lot with all of the last mile delivery. I think the majority of those 2-wheelers are still ICE compared to in East Africa, but also West Africa, Ghana, where we have lots of electric 2 and also 3-wheelers. Do you think, because you touched on urban, we need different concepts for rural areas versus urban?
Yes, there will be different concepts, but the one important thing that will never change, we talk about, and probably a better word for micromobility is affordable mobility. The essence of it is that the operator, the owner, not only giving them the economic freedom of mobility, but what he can generate from he or she can generate from an income position per day must be greater than the cost per day. That's very, very important. So we've got to look at innovative ownership solutions. Very important for stakeholders to collaborate on microfinancing, collective ownership, accessibility. As we know, will always be a challenge for charging. Hence, for micromobility, you need a battery swap system. And the objective to have a successful affordable mobility solution is also having a successful integrated ecosystem to drive it. So it's not just the hardware, it's all the products and software that go around.
Thanks, Mike. Because I always feel if we talk about affordable mobility or micromobility, we always talk about urban cities, because obviously it's a bit easier than rural areas, but we mustn't forget that the majority in Africa is also rural.
So there are obviously a number of products to support from an agricultural, small farming point of view as well. And what I forgot to mention, which I think is very important, is that as the Secretary General spoke about the agreement last night, spoke about the fact that automotive is a key pillar, one of the 4 key pillars of the strategy. just want to re-emphasize that in the automotive, micro-mobility is how we adopted this project.
Thanks, Mark. Then coming from two OEMs to also a component manufacturer, you're based in Tunisia, and before I ask very, very hard questions, you're also the Vice President of TAA, which is the Tunisian Association of the Auto Industry, really also a strong partner of the AAM, and if you haven't explored the exhibition hall yet, that's towards the audience, then please do so, because TAA has also quite a big presence there at the exhibition, so I'll just urge you to also check it out. So Imed, from your experience in the Tunisian auto industry, and I think you've done very well as a country also to develop R&D capacities, and I know that's also one of the core pillars of your business. So you also have a very strong reputation for plastic injection molding, for automotive wiring. So the question is really, how can you also support the development of affordable mobility in Tunisia and the region, and obviously under the AFCFTA across the continent?
Good morning, Mr. Ambassador. Good morning, Mr. Tandy. So it's a great pleasure to be here. As you said, the Tunisian automotive sector are strongly present here on the fair with a booth with some of our partners. And you know that we are more than 300 companies working on this sector, providing components for the sector from Europe and also from the continent, especially to Morocco, Algeria, and other neighbors. So since a long time in the Tunisian Automotive Association, we work with this startup, working on this micro-mobility component. It's product that better we produce it locally, better the price will be. This is very important. And better we support them in terms of technology. We have the technology of the wire that we know very well. We have the technology of plastic, electronic, and integration. So these make them the solution to, of course, have some of the technology outside, but the platform, the structure of the car is adapted to the local market. And this makes the car or the micro-mobility system more competitive. We reduce the supply chain, we have locally the components, we know better for the repair sales, the repair system, and we see it, we are in the early of the phase. It's not so much after today, but we really see as an opportunity. We have now another new project, it's about battery. Why battery is not done locally? We can do that. So this is another project that we have, one of the managers in Tunisia, working on this project and trying to integrate this system to this the two-wheel, three-wheel of the microcar. Yeah.
Thanks, Emmett. And just to add on to this, how do you also balance affordability with quality? And I think you're not only within the auto industry, you're also in the aerospace industry. So is there any lessons we can learn from that?
Yeah. So clearly, there is no discussion about quality. No discussion about it. We have a standard. We learn a lot from automotive, from aeronautic, from our business in the medical, and we apply all the best practices that we learned from the automotive market. That is, select the good raw material, be sure that this raw material will support the car during its life, temperature. We have also all the system of reliability, so all the tests, and after that is traceability. The component that we put on this car have to be traceable. We know what we are putting on it. Okay? And of course also it's all the reliability of the car, and there is no discussion about it. So we apply all the fundamentals of the quality basis, the system quality, they are homologated with the IATF. We have a standard on the automotive, and we apply it. We apply it on this system, and it works. And we have to link and to know that not quality will increase cost. If you do it well, if you have a process under control, and you reduce your scrap, you use more recyclable material. So we are going to green, to optimize logistics chain, and also to reliable product. And we don't make compromise on this. And we don't have to do compromise on this, because in the end, it is the security of the people that we transport. So it's very important that this mindset, we learn it from our experience of industry of automotive, let's put it on this new business opportunity.
Thanks, Ines, and I'm happy you touched also on recycling. I know it's not part of this topic, but it's really evolving discussion within Africa, because there's lots of opportunities also for recycling opportunities and feeds back into our industry. But coming back to what you said, Sharon, in the beginning, because in order for an OEM or component manufacturer to support the development of affordable mobility, you obviously also need the support of governments. So the question is, which partnerships or also which collaborations, such as with us as an association or governments, do you really think are essential to scale affordable mobility on the continent?
Let's first talk about scale. I think is the big answer on everything. You don't want to compromise quality, you don't want to compromise safety, and so the pursuit of scale to reduce costs, I think, is really what we're all after collectively here, and one of the cornerstones around the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. In terms of collaboration, I've discovered in Africa that's absolutely key. And I refer to this partnership between public and private enterprise, but also collaboration with groups such as AAAM, other industry development groups that I'm discovering exist in each of these countries that we need to mobilize. The automotive associations, there's very good examples in Tunisia, how you've done a wonderful job in Tunisia to mobilize all the industry, bring them together collectively, and tackle the opportunities in a very structured and organized way. And I think there's some very good lessons learned on that right across the continent. South Africa is another terrific example of that we do have best practices sitting here within the continent for us to cut and paste and emulate across all the countries as we all collectively collaborate around a integrated ecosystem for the automotive. So all these collaborations are important, and I think at the end of the day you need a common vision, a common strategy of what we're all aiming to achieve. And I think it's as a group of people that have this common goal in the industry, I think we're going to be unstoppable. Mike referenced earlier that this is the last frontier of automotive growth, exponential automotive growth in the world. And it's for us collectively in this room to seize and make it a reality, which will then provide affordable mobility for Africans that are, for the future, growing with mainstream middle class. It's going to enable the freedom that is so desired by the population. And I think I referenced last night that only 70 out of 1,000 people currently in Africa, on average, own a vehicle. And so to unlock opportunities, you've got to unlock mobility. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to replace public transportation. It's definitely a complementary strategy, but one that is crucial for the development of the continent. So hopefully that answers the question, but definitely there needs to be collaboration on all fronts.
Thanks, Sharon. And then from one OEM to the other, so what opportunities really do exist now for integrating micro-mobility into urban transport planning? So is it public-private partnerships?
It definitely has to be partnerships to make the ecosystem work. But I think the just sheer force of what's happening in Africa will make it absolutely critical to integrate into dollar change. I mean, we look at the numbers that we've heard over the last few days. To put it in perspective, by the end of the century, 12 of the world's 20 biggest mega cities will be on this continent. Lagos, the biggest. If we don't address the issue of micro-mobility and mobility, we're going to struggle. We had a very good presentation yesterday from the UN in terms of the challenges the continent faces with the dumping of used vehicles, dangerous vehicles, not compliant in many cases with standards. Why is it happening? It's that we have a continent that, as Sharon mentioned, has a third, its vehicles per thousand is a third of the global average. It's because of affordability. And we will never stop used vehicles if we don't offer alternatives for affordability of mobility. So hence, for me, for us, I think all of us, it's important to address the issue of affordable mobility to eliminate, reduce the used vehicle issues that we have on the sheer direction that the African continent's taking, the population demographics, the need for mobility, I think will force us to move in that direction and work together.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, there is, I think, really a big need for micro-mobility in order for cities also not to be congested, because this is not the best example. Qassem was stuck in traffic. That's why he's late. So Qassem, hopefully at the next IATF we see a growth in micro-mobility. Cities are not congested anymore, and then everyone on time. I'm happy you're here. So Qassem is the CEO of O Group and also of Rana Motors Ghana, also a long-standing partner of the AAAM. And we touched on it yesterday. Ghana is also evolving, has an evolving auto industry. The government announced 5 years ago the implementation of an auto policy. We do know that there is some provisions which are still outstanding, which I think also hinders the scaling up of the industry in Ghana. But I think you and I know you're very passionate and you're pushing for it, are very hopeful that at the end of the year we'll implement that policy and we really see a growth. But I want to hear from you also, if you can share your experiences from Ghana and how you really see affordable mobility growing in Ghana. So before you answer that, when I moved to Africa 5 years ago, that was actually the first time I was looking at buying a vehicle. Because I grew up in Germany, in Berlin, and you have public transport, you cycle to work, you don't really need a car, even though some OEMs don't want to hear that. So I was really looking at buying my first car when I moved to Africa, and I was so shocked when I saw the vehicle financing rates, the loans. Yeah. So that's something I never experienced before. That's why I really do think we need affordable mobility in order to scale. So Qassem, what are your experiences for Ghana? How do you see the market evolving?
Thank you. Sorry again for being late. Actually, affordable mobility, to give an example of Ghana, I think you've seen yesterday we've signed a memorandum of understanding with Afrique, where there's a loan interest rates being given, which will give capabilities to people in Ghana to have more affordable loans on vehicles. But actually, I would say the problem is not there. It's more in because people in Africa in general don't have access to the loans, and usually for them to have access, you have to have systems in place where you build banking credibility or even insurance credibility. So we don't have these systems yet in the system where you would make it much easier to build a credible file for the banks to be able to give. Lowering the risk is one of the really big issues that we face, and usually in Europe or in the US, it's much easier to have access because everything is well organized. The systems are well organized. What we did, for example, today in Ghana, what we're trying to do is we're trying to set up a database where all the dealers will be in that database, where banks will be connected to those databases, where insurance companies will be connected to these databases, and also it makes the information flow, the history of the vehicle, like everything in one place, so it can lower the risks for the banks, for them to be able to be giving those loans at lower interest rates. Thank you.
Thanks. And adding up on to that, because you mentioned creating a database, and we all know that data is key in Africa in order to do business, to understand the market. So do you think technology is one of the factors, like softwares and data systems, is one of the enablers to lower the barrier for ownership of vehicles?
Yes, actually, I would say technology and data is very important because what we discovered, also give an example as Ghana, is the banks wants to have data about the vehicle, they want to have data about the valuation of the vehicle, and they need the whole cycle to be credited, or they need the whole cycle to be protected. As you said, we went into a venture as an association where we're building a database, we're creating, how do I put it? We're creating a system where the banks